All right. Let me see if we actually are live here. Okay, Health Talks. And all right. I have like my laptop and then I have my big screen behind.
Ah,
Okay. Let's see. Let me check real quick here where we're live. Okay, I think we're live.
great.
Looking on my phone, see if I get a
Yeah,
notification.
we're looking to see. Health Talk Crossbows. Pulling up Zoom. Pulling up. Are you seeing Jose?
No.
Huh. Hold on. Hold on here. Sharing screen. See if there's a delay or something. It's on. Funny. It's on. I see it on my laptop that we're live, but I want to make sure.
Here, I'm going into
Health
your
Talks.
page.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
We're live, right?
Yeah, I see it now.
Awesome.
Yep, there's 5 views already. Cool.
Cool. Alex, good morning. Your kind of talk, huh? And yes, so it works. Yay, we're live. So yeah, I just finished a Zoom talk like half an hour ago, and we're on our second Facebook Live talk here. And we this morning, guys, this is our Memorial Care Education Series. Is that right, Jose? Should
That's
we
correct, yeah.
sponsored by
Once a
Memorial
week.
once a week education series. We chat about something every week with that. What do we talk about next week or last week? Last week we had a nurse
Last week
practitioner.
we talked about, it was about, oh boy.
Your
I
memory's
hope
as
it
poor
wasn't
as mine is.
Irish.
Yeah, we have
Man,
memory issues here, Nikki, and we're like memory experts. Alzheimer's. I don't know. Can't remember what we
let,
talked
let,
about.
last week was about depression and anxiety.
About depression, anxiety.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have Nikki on from New York, right? Welcome, Nikki. And so I think Alex is from. Where are you from, Alex? I think Alex is from Canada, and we got a few different folks on. We're going to talk about the endocannabinoid system, medical cannabis, CBD, the whole works today. And I brought on Nikki. First of all, she is amazing. She's a good friend, but she has a story to share. Um, Coming from both Western medicine, is that right, Nikki? You were an RN, a nurse, and
I was
now
a
and
pediatric nurse. Yes.
pediatric nurse, and now more of an integrative medicine approach, based on uh, based on your story. Uh,
Yes. Coming from Western medicine world and pediatrics, you're very closed-minded to anything really alternative because it's not proven. And we're talking about children and developing brains. And
yeah.
so any parent that would have come to us to use cannabis as a medicine for seizures or anything like that, we just kind of took the no real position approach. And kind of like, what are they thinking? Are they crazy? And behind the scenes, right? So, and not, it was just from lack of education. It wasn't that we thought the parents were crazy, but learning to live with a chronic illness has been my biggest eye-opening experience, that my life changed in a second. One day I was doing my job as a pediatric nurse. A child was very combative for a vaccine, routine immunization, Tdap actually, and no one could handle him, and he was just like flailing about. So I got called in to assist, which this is not a new occurrence at all. I mean, literally every day. But this one was pretty wild. So he was a 10-year-old regular kid, about my size, about 100 pounds, a little taller than me, but he was very strong and very much not letting the nurse, my coworker, give the injection. So every time she'd go, he'd flap his arm like a bird. And literally, I took all my strength to restrain him with the parent against the parents. So I got behind the child, and basically he headbutted me. He pulled one of those great world wrestling moves and just tucked his chin, flung it back into my head, and I bounced off a plaster wall and back into his head. So it was kind of a double impact injury with a whiplash consequence. And I expected it to be just like any other little concussion that we have, and expected to get better right away. And none of that happened. Learning to slow down and just try and get better, because I'm a nurse, right? I mean, I'm the one that's fixing everyone else. I'm not able to be down and out. And I tried the Western medicine route, and I literally saw specialists all over this country, all over Canada, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on imaging and things not covered by workers' compensation. And I was having anaphylactic reactions to multiple drugs that I was being prescribed by these doctors. And it was just a layering effect. And I became so despondent and so hopeless at one point that I truly was planning my death and planning suicide. And I am not exaggerating. And it was a very dark, dark place. And I would never wish that on anyone. But it gave me a true perspective on what depression really is, when you have no hope and you literally are in this downward spiral. Then my husband, being the great guy he is, tried to cheer me up and said, let's go on vacation. Let's go to Vegas, your favorite place. And literally couldn't even come out of that state. So he goes out, I'm looking outside on the balcony of Vegas, the Cosmopolitan, and this billboard comes cruising by that says, get your weed card today. And it turns out it's like a California doctor that, because they offer reciprocity in Nevada, that's a great, great thing. And I wish all 50 states would understand how important that is for medical patients to offer reciprocity, because it makes all the difference in the world. And I literally saw this billboard go by, and it changed my life. And I mentioned it to my husband kind of in passing, and he's like, whatever you want to do, let's get in the limo, let's go get this is not a guy who has ever been supportive of cannabis or knew it as medicine. I mean, he's like, Nikki, I'll try anything. You are just completely not who I married. And brain injury does change people. I mean, there's no question, but it was the hopelessness. It was the despair. It was the unable to function. So I literally get my card. It was a great, smooth process. And I was sent to a dispensary, and it was incredibly overwhelming. It was the Rite Aid for weed. And when I say I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but the people there were very, very helpful. And, what they recommended is not the strains I would personally choose to use now, but they got me off the ledge. They were not medical providers. They were bud tenders. There was no medical recommendation from the doctor. It was just list your conditions and here you go, here's your access. And I'm cool with that, but it would have been nicer to have a little more guidance, because in my state now, although I have a California medical card, I have a New York medical card, and I also have a Canadian card. So I the New York State product, we don't offer full flower, full plant medicine. So I really struggle with finding the right products that work in our state program. So I literally have to leave my state to medicate legally with full plant medicine, which is incredibly frustrating.
What are some of your traumatic brain injury symptoms that you had prior to trying out cannabis, and how did it affect you? I mean, what did cannabis do to those symptoms?
One of the biggest things I think is working memory. Working memory is significantly impaired with me. I literally can't put simple thoughts together, and cannabis enables me. Like, I'm medicated right now. If I didn't have any medication in me, I couldn't even really have this chat with you. I can literally, my cognitive function, just things become clear in my brain. This is not from a medical perspective or a science perspective. I'm just coming from a layman. I am not a practicing nurse at the present time. I am just a medical patient who happens to be a nurse that uses cannabis. So I don't want to come off as some, wake expert, because I'm not. But my symptoms, anxiety, depression, sleep, pain, the chronic pain is a huge problem. I have a headache of 7 out of 10 every single day, the minute I wake up till the moment I go to bed. My pain tolerance, because of this injury, has just become, I can't even relate to somebody that just says they have a little headache. I mean, right. I'm way beyond a little headache. So, it's, those are the main symptoms. And cannabis has just enabled me to maybe slow down. The depression isn't there like it was. I still am on a antidepressant. I'm still taking Zoloft, but not the other 15 drugs that I was on. Other than my Synthroid, that's always
so were you able to get off a few extra medications because of?
I was getting off. I at one point was taking 12 different pills and supplements. Now I'm just taking my Zoloft and Adderall. So, but I was on and Synthroid. But I was on the Adderall and Synthroid prior to the brain injury. So Zoloft is really the only new additive that I've taken since my brain injury with cannabis.
I see. Interesting. Did you, because when we think about using cannabis, I just think about somebody who's getting high, who's always, la la land. But in your case, that wasn't what you had or felt?
I think my level of cannabinoids are so consistent in my system that I medicate all day at a microdose level. So I'm sorry, what was the question?
So it's not a dose that gets you high?
No, it's definitely not a ghost that gets me high. It's definitely it's just the more I smoke, it just clarifies things. It just enables me to now check my outlook without stressing, to now share some Facebook posts without stressing. It's the little things that you become more grateful for that cannabis has allowed me to do that I haven't been able to do since my brain injury. And it's really allowed me to find hope. And that despair of depression was just horrible. And I can honestly say the plant helps tremendously. And I am a THC and CBD user. And that's what I find effective for me. Many people do find a lot of relief with just CBD, but for me, I need the full plant. And unfortunately, I need to smoke my medicine due to metabolic issues. I don't process anything that's fat soluble. So CBD, THC, both fat soluble. I've tried the nanotechnology things, but without real success. Being in a legal state would make all the difference to be able to experiment. I've gotten most of my knowledge and understanding of different cultivars by Canada. Canada, up until COVID, was my pretty much safe house. It was my medical refuge because I'm 15 minutes from the Canadian-U.S. border. So it's wonderful because it's legalized. You have full plants, and you can try different strains and really find what works for you.
Very interesting. Since there isn't really any strong, double-blind clinical research on this, and most of the data that we have today is preclinical.
Correct.
Right? Are folks like yourself just trying different doses and kind of experimenting yourself? Is that what's happening?
Yes, exactly. It's a complete trial and error situation. I mean, I found cannabis not because my doctor told me to, but literally was about to kill myself. I mean, this literally, everything happens for a reason, and the universe puts different circumstances in our path. And, you either choose to see what's out there or just continue down your hole. And luckily for me, there was hope in that billboard cruising by. But for many others that don't know about the plant, like, had I not found cannabis that day, Iggy, we would not be having this conversation. So I am confident of that. I was that bad. And anyone that's in that place shouldn't have to worry because of Schedule 1 status that they're committing a crime, just getting... But everything is so messed up. I mean, the whole black market, illicit market exists because of the Schedule 1 status. I mean, California is so awesome, and you guys forget what it's like to be in a state that doesn't have full access to the plant. And, I've actually considered relocating, literally, numerous times, just to have access to medicine that works.
Wow.
Nikki, could I ask you a quick question? I'm actually just curious, but do you see a difference between the cannabis, like with, California or Canadian cannabis, like on strains or quality of it, or?
What I find is I'm going to use Nevada because I've traveled there numerous times and I'm familiar with a lot of their cultivars. And in Canada, I've had much more experience. But if I just take a few strains, I can tell you the quality is definitely comparable. Both places, both countries, both states. Well, you know what I mean. But the pricing in Canada is more affordable by far compared to Vegas. And the information, what's nice in Vegas is they give you the full terpene. They give you the terps, they give you the secondary cannabinoids and everything. In Canada, that's not really widely available on their packaging. However, you can get it if you go to the producer's website.
Interesting.
Did that help?
Tell us about like the other stuff in the plant besides CBD and THC. You mentioned terpenes, and what is all that other stuff that's in the plant? Tell us about that.
So again, going on my just personal knowledge, terpenes are where it's at for me. Terpenes are what gives the plant its smell, its taste, and flavonoids also. But terpenes is what I've really found to be effective in managing my symptoms. I find that, and let's just be clear, terpenes are essential oils, okay? Every plant makes them. But they've just given this beautiful fancy name of terpenes that, but if you break terpenes down to, let's take limonene, that's one of my favorite preferred terpenes that I look for strains that are rich in that particular one. I find it for clarity, focus, uplifting, that kind of benefit. And if you have lemonade, you're really having limonene. They're all the same. A lemon and limonene are all the same scent, the same everything. So what I find I look for most is the terpenes. Myrcene would be my least favorite terpene, despite it being in virtually every strain, and it's usually one of the more dominant terpenes. There are multiple minor cannabinoids in there that there's so much research being done, and when we try and isolate the compound,
Mm-hmm.
you just lose that entire entourage effect of everything working together.
Sure.
It's sort of when you think of polypharmacy, the effect you are experiencing is sometimes an effect of the drug you're already giving the patient to solve that one symptom. And so then you just layer it with another drug and you really aren't sure what's helping the symptom. So think of cannabis and the entourage effect of the whole plant in a similar way. At least that's how it makes sense for me.
Right. That's interesting. Thinking of terpenes is really just essential oils, and essential oils in itself is a business in
It is.
itself, right?
It
And
is
so
100%.
so in this plant, you got the essential oils, and then you got all the endocannabinoids, and maybe that's why it works together well if it's used as an entire plant, as opposed to isolating the individual components of the plant, huh?
Again, this is just my personal
Yeah.
experience, not trying to be a double-blind placebo kind of trial girl here at all. Just on what I have found. You also asked about the strain name consistency. It is absolutely not even close to the same name strain
Right.
chain. They all come up with, it's so confusing in Canada because they have so many multiple levels of distribution, and then they will white label a product and then give it a certain name, and then but the same guy makes the same thing 4 different ways and they call it 4 different names and it's the exact same product. So
Marketing, yeah.
If you learn the system, you're fine, but when you're like, well, this doesn't taste any different than that one, what's going on? And then you understand. But
Right.
it's really, really a science putting all the pieces together, especially with a brain injury and one who struggles with executive function, working memory.
Right. Have you read up on the endocannabinoid system?
I have absolutely read up on it.
Yeah. What's your understanding of it from a layman's term for folks who are watching?
Please do not consider this science.
Yes.
CB1 and CB2 receptors are all throughout our body.
Right.
Mainly the CB1s are in our brain. And what is my understanding is THC and CBD work in conjunction with these receptors and basically give our body what it needs that it's lacking. Whether it's a chemical imbalance, it basically keeps us in homeostasis. That would be, it's like a lock and key kind of system. A deadbolt, think of key. Yeah. The receptors become the, and in some cases they're antagonists. They don't all just receive positive things. Like for instance, if you overdose on, or if you overdo it on the THC, let's say you had an edible that was far too potent for you and you needed to come down. CBD actually works as an antagonist to THC and will bring those unpleasant effects of too much THC down so it's more manageable, provided again the person's reaction and metabolism and everything else. But as a general rule of thumb, if somebody's feeling like they're going to green out, if you vape a CBD product or ingesting is really hard to do because at this point you're at the point of no return if you're at the green out phase. But CBD can really be useful. And it also can be useful in not getting too high. So when someone uses a one-to-one product, they're not going to be as affected as a high THC, low CBD product.
Right.
But
the CBD kind of balances the effects of the THC because we, in the clinical trials, I've read that THC, one of the potential side effects could be a flare-up of unstable mental health conditions. For example, if you have schizophrenia, right? THC can flare up your schizophrenia. And I also read that CBD actually helps to address schizophrenia symptoms, to kind of calm down and treat schizophrenia. Here's another example. If one of the side effects of THC would be if you had potential problems, underlying problems with paranoia.
Exactly.
THC can flare
Yep.
up your paranoia, whereas CBD treats the paranoia. So that's where the antagonistic effect comes in. If
Okay.
you have too much of one, the other one brings it down and calms it down, which is why CBD is often used for anxiety, for to kind of a calmer, for sleep, for things of that sort. It's been very interesting seeing the counterbalance between CBD and THC, which is kind of why the entourage effect works. If you have the effects of the entire plant as opposed to just isolating it, you know, an ingredient or a component. Alex on Facebook says, "I've tested it; it works." Ha ha. Yeah, but how many of you
I
guys
guess
have? Yeah.
I'm so excited about CBD, and CBD has wonderful properties, and I am not here in any way, shape, or form to dispute that. I am just saying, sort of like every drug doesn't work for every person,
Hmm.
we all, as physicians, healthcare providers, whatever we are, have to be open to the whole plant.
Yes.
Because I am a perfect example that CBD alone for my TBI symptoms or my sleep or my pain or my
Right.
anxiety does not work. An example, certain cultivars can produce anxiety. I had my first anxious paranoia experience, and
Wow.
I've never had one like that. And it was a Durban poison, which I had been smoking the whole week. So, I mean, it was very strange. It was almost like I got overloaded on it. It
Uh-huh.
was the weirdest thing. And it was only an hour because the
Hmm.
beauty of smoking is it's a very short duration. So, any unpleasant effects are going to be over within an hour. And I know you're a doctor, you can't, condone smoking. I'm sorry, but I'm just sharing what really
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. Very interesting with that. You guys on Facebook, how many of you guys have tried stuff like CBD and THC and stuff before? I'm just curious. Who's actually tried? I know Alex have, since he's a CBD man in Canada. But I'm curious who's actually tried CBD or medical cannabis and things of that sort. I think the most popular conditions that CBD or cannabis or medical cannabis is being used for today is pain control.
Mm-hmm.
And
100.
with that, oh, Etna Keegan, who is a nurse, says, "How does it help with autism in kids?" Ooh, do you
Ooh,
know anything?
I can tell you right now, it reduces aggression in children. I am not a pediatric nurse expert on cannabis and autism, so let me be crystal clear on that. But I can tell you that there are numerous studies going on in the United States as well in Pennsylvania. There's an outstanding organization, Hope Grows for Autism. And Erica Daniels is leading that charge, and with
Mm-hmm.
Alera Dispensary, I think is their name. And they are doing great things in Pittsburgh with clinical trials with Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh, CHOP.
Yep.
And they're really making great strides. And I would highly, highly recommend anyone with questions with autism and cannabis to reach out to Hope Grows for Autism.
I read a published journal article that was really interesting. This is again in the preclinical trial phase. But what they did was they took a few autistic kids and the researchers checked their levels of endocannabinoids hormones. Our body makes its own endocannabinoid hormones, right? And what happens, what they've noticed and they have published is that children with autism in this preclinical study, the children with autism had a persistently low level of endocannabinoids.
Mm-hmm.
And so Edna, to answer your questions, you know, we think there may be a link there between uh, between having low levels of endocannabinoid and maybe the aggressive behaviors of autism or certain behaviors of autism that CBD may play a difference or a role in.
And there's many other organizations. I just brought Hope Grows for Autism just because that was the first thing that popped into my mind. But there's Mike's Medicinals. He's doing work with CBG and CBN and autism. And again, these are preclinical. I'm not suggesting I know all the ins and outs, but I know in Australia they're really doing some things with Zolera therapeutics, with autism, with chronic pain. Some really awesome things going on.
Wow. I know that you're obviously an advocate for this, and you've been on different platforms advocating this, even with politicians and things of that sort. Tell us some of your platforms you've been on, and how you got recruited to go speak on this stuff.
Well, honestly, it just became a passion by accident. When I came back to New York, I discovered after my Vegas experience in 2017 that I wasn't eligible for a medical cannabis card. Chronic pain wasn't listed as an option at that time. So we had like 5 conditions at the time, and I wasn't any of them. I considered calling myself IBS, but what are they really going to do?
Right.
but really, I mean, it was like AIDS, wasting syndrome, stage 4 cancer with imminent death pending. There were literal, terrible list of conditions. So I was like, well, now what am I going to do? And then so that hopelessness started coming back because I'm still on all these pharmaceuticals. I hadn't stopped anything at this point. It was just a vacation in Vegas. So then I came home and I had to navigate a whole new system. And a friend of mine basically said, come to Canada. We got medical cannabis. And I had met this amazing woman who was a researcher in cannabis. And she wanted me to speak about TBI and cannabis and started educating me on the plant and helped me get my medical card so that because I spent so much time in Canada, I was able to do that. And it was just, I'm so thankful that I had that ability.
Wow. Vicky on Facebook says, I want to try for sleep, but not sure how to buy so many CBD stores and online promotions. How do you know what to choose? How do you know what a quality product looks like?
That's a loaded question. There are so many different products, and how do you know who's snake oil and who's real? I would love to give you a one-size-fits-all answer for this, but I don't really have a good recommendation. Like, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I don't get endorsements or any of that, but I have found full spectrum products to be most effective if you're just using a CBD product. Full spectrum with all the cannabinoids, like other things besides just isolated CBD. An isolated CBD product might reflect on the bottle a high milligram, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the best. If it doesn't say full spectrum, full plant product, it's really not going to be as effective, at least in my personal experience and personal opinion, as an isolated product. So that's real important. Anything less than $50 for a bottle probably isn't really great.
Really? Really?
Huh. Yes. Usually it's, you got to be so careful with all this extraction technology. So when you have a hemp flower, okay, which is what is legal, we can all talk about CBD hemp because that's what's legal in the 50 states. That's what the Farm Bill meant. But it is not the same as a beautiful marijuana flower. Hemp is grown for its seeds and its fiber and its stalks. It's not grown for its beautiful flowers. Yes, there are CBD flowers out there that are cultivated usually for that. Unfortunately, they usually are in a medical marijuana state because they still have THC. Even at a small percentage, it's over than the 0.3% of hemp. And so that makes them not truly a CBD hemp product. So depending on the state that you're in and what is legal is a big deal. So understanding your state laws and knowing where to go, I highly recommend speaking to other patients and patient support groups, seeing what works for them for whatever condition you're looking for.
You have a group on Facebook, don't you?
I don't have a group. I have a page. I'm trying to figure out social media. It's Nikki and the Plant on Facebook. And then I have nikkiandtheplant.org is my brand new website. I haven't done anything on.
So Nikki and the Plant is your page?
Yes, Nikki and the Plant.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to check it out. Plant.
It's a lot of just movement in the industry. It's mainly cannabis, but some brain injury. I'm just really on a mission to share with people that cannabis doesn't have to be a last resort. And honestly, in Israel, first responders, if they are injured in a blast or in the army, whatever, they literally give them THC immediately via nasal application because it reduces the
inflammation.
Right.
Reduces brain inflammation. There's been some studies on brain inflammation, brain injury, and cannabis, and how. And these are really interesting studies that I've looked at on how cannabis is an anti-inflammatory, is what it is. It stimulates, anything that goes out of whack in our system. The endocannabinoid system brings it back to balance. And so inflammation is when your body goes out of whack, right? And so there's some preliminary studies that we've seen on brain injuries and reducing inflammation with the use of medical cannabis. Very interesting stuff. All preliminary, but very interesting with that.
Really, and when I was looking, because I'm a real detail-oriented kind of human, so when I can't read for long periods of time because of my TBI, my eyes are just screwed up and stuff, but I try really hard, and it takes a few times to read it, but one of the consistent things I find is the inconsistent data. There's inconsistent. The reefer madness problem is still a real problem with especially physicians and medical professionals because they've been taught it's a drug. It's the same as mushrooms. There's a lot of cutting edge research on psychedelics and how effective it is. And I mean, right away, immediately when I heard that 2 years ago, I was like, yeah, no, that's not for me. But I thought the same thing about cannabis. So, I guess the lesson here is we have to open our thinking because at the end of the day, all the studies in the world don't really mean a lot if they don't help the patients they're meaning to treat. And at the end of the day, for me, whether it's THC, CBD, combo of the whole plant, that's what works for me. And that's not the message for everyone. And I'm not suggesting it takes all that for everyone, but I'm happy with what I've found. And I just wish access was easier.
Of course. Very cool. Very educational with that. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, it's very, it's interesting. I personally haven't done any cannabis, but I'm a firm believer with my dog. I have a basset hound, and we spent thousands of dollars trying to find a cure, and the veterinarians just kept prescribing some medication and overnights at the hospital, and I went to a veterinarian in Irvine and prescribed CBD drops, and that was it. It felt like we had a puppy again.
Oh, that's great.
No way. What was your dog like before? What was wrong?
No, he wasn't eating. He just looked sad and sleeping all day. Couldn't walk upstairs.
Wow.
No appetite whatsoever.
Really good.
So, yeah. So, I'm a firm believer in that because we saw it firsthand, and it was a lot cheaper. I'll tell you that much.
For sure.
Yeah.
Wow, very cool. Nikki, thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. That was really nice.
Yeah.
It was really impromptu. I didn't prepare. It was like on the fly for sure.
It's always impromptu when it comes to me. Right, Jose?
That's right.
Jose, I got a speaker for you.
Well, I'm a speaker at the Whole Plant Expo coming up here in October, and I've got to prepare a presentation for that. And so,
Oh, you're speaking? You're one of the speakers?
Yeah.
Where's the expo at? Is it online?
It's an online thing, virtual expo. It's Whole Plant Expo.
So cool.
But it's just not cannabis. It's other things too. But
Right. Very cool. Well, we'll have to bring you back sometime and chat some more.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Jose, anything you want to educate us about memorial care?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's gonna be hard to top Nikki's talk.
Okay.
but yeah, so like Dr. Trent said, my name is Jose. I'm with Memorial Care. I'm the Medicare Education Specialist, and so open enrollment's coming pretty close here in October. So we're very excited, very busy. Unfortunately, a lot of people are being laid off because of everything that's happening with the virus, and Social Security offices are closed. So it's making it very challenging for people out there. So anybody turning 65, you got questions about your current Medicare plan or your medications, you're in a donut hole or anything like that, please don't hesitate. Give me a call. I'll be more than happy to guide you and do a plan comparison and answer any questions on Medicare or what your options, what you have for options, come your 65th birthday.
So folks can call you about anything memorial care or Medicare related?
Yeah. So if you have questions, you wanna apply for Medicare, I'll be more than happy to guide you through that and apply for your Part A, Part B, and if you want to learn more, right? So we do have. If you go to our website memorialcare.org, we're offering a bunch of Zoom meetings, virtual Medicare meetings. You can download forms from our website. So yeah, pretty much any questions you have, you can always give me a call.
No way. What's your number so people can call you?
714 640 7158.
Got it. Just don't call you at midnight unless it's an invite to a party.
Unless it's a CBD party.
Plant, Jose, Whole Plant.
Whole Plant.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So if you guys want to learn about Medicare, Jose from Memorial Care is the one. Very cool. All right.
Thank you, Dr.
Well, I learned something today, guys. So very cool. Well, thank you so much, guys. It's that was a fun one with that. And thank you for coming on, Nikki. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Nikki.
You're so welcome. It was great meeting you guys.
Likewise.
All right. See you later.